You're running on fumes, aren't you? Every single decision feels heavy, like pulling a weighted blanket over your soul. That passion you once had, that fierce fire that ignited this whole business dream, well, at this point it's just flickering, maybe even gone out completely. Now you're looking at this endless to-do list, and instead of being motivated, all you feel is crushing physical exhaustion. And listen, this isn't just about being tired from a long week. This is deep, what I call soul-wearying fatigue. This is burnout. It's that silent enemy that can dismantle every single thing you've built, piece by painful piece. Well, today I'm going to share my own story and what that burnout cost me. To say it rocked my world is an understatement. I'm going to share that a bit later. But here's the thing I want you to hear right now. This doesn't have to be your story. What if this extreme exhaustion, this raw, undeniable pain is actually a sign? A sign that's painful, desperate invitation to stop, to truly assess, and to rebuild yourself. And at the same time, rebuild your business stronger and more sustainably than you ever thought possible. On today's show, we're talking about acknowledging the burnout, staring it down, looking it right in the eyes, and finding a real gritty path back to reignite your purpose. So stick with me. We're going to get through this, and we're going to get through it together. Hey, and welcome back to Grit and Growth Business. I'm Ralphie Stepp Jr., and I'm so happy that you're joining me once again in the trenches this week. Now, if you tuned into our last episode, you know we talked all about the critical conversation about fixing your foundation before you decide to scale and understanding that true growth, I'm talking about lasting and sustainable growth, is built on strength and not on speed. Well, this week we're getting into a topic that for so many of us, it touches the very core of why we even start businesses, why we pour ourselves into, we pour our lives into them, and why so many of us ultimately struggle and frankly suffer burnout. Yeah, I said it, and I bet you felt it. You might be listening to this right now and you're feeling it right at this moment. As I said, today's title is Burned Out, but the best part of it is Let's Rebuild. And if that title resonates with you right now, if you felt a jolt of recognition, if your stomach clenched just a little bit, and you thought to yourself, he's talking about me. Well, I want you to know something right now, absolutely critical that you understand this right here, right now. You are not alone in this, not by a long shot. Yes, I'm talking to you right there, right now. This small business journey is a relentless marathon. And it demands Herculean effort. It's everyday, constant problem solving and a willingness to put your business before almost everything else. Yeah, I said it, almost everything else. And sometimes, tragically, and for me, even above my own well-being. And see, I've seen it countless times, countless clients over my 3 decades in this work. That dedicated craftsman who works himself to the bone, literally to the bone. Or that passionate service provider who takes on every single client, every single request. Never says no to anybody until there's just nothing left. Do you understand what I'm talking about? And believe me, I've experienced myself. I remember seasons in my own journey, especially early on when I was just getting started, where I thought the only way to succeed was to outwork everybody. I had to be the first one in, the last one out. I had to take every single call, answer every email, no matter the hour. My wife one time said to me on a Saturday morning when a client called at 6 a.m., she goes, "Ralph, there are no accounting emergencies." But I certainly thought there was. And I felt that thrill, that initial rush of building something. There was euphoria in that. But then slowly, insidiously, that thrill gave way to a grind. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Got into that grind, and then it got to, frankly, overwhelm. And finally, to a profound, deep-seated exhaustion that seeped into every single part of my life, not just the business. And listen, it wasn't just physical tiredness. If it was that, I could have got a good night's sleep and fixed it. It was a mental exhaustion to the point where decisions felt impossible. And I'm going to add to that emotional fatigue, where I had nothing left to give to my family. And what's important to me now and was important to me then is spiritual drain as well, where my sense of purpose felt completely extinguished. I remember back then it was that very thought of even opening my email or making one more phone call felt like climbing an impossible mountain. Let me ask you right now, have you ever felt that kind of exhaustion? Well, if you have, you know what I'm getting ready to say next. It is agonizingly painful because you started this for freedom. That was the whole reason you got back into business. Think back to why you started this business. Why did you start it? You started it to make an impact. Maybe you had a purpose. You wanted to build something that served you. And now all of a sudden you feel like a slave to your very own creation, shackled to its endless, insatiable demands. And that burnout we're talking about today, that burnout chips away at your confidence. It makes you question your abilities. It strains your most important relationships. And it can even lead to serious health issues that force you to stop, often at the absolute worst possible time for your business. And listen, it's not a temporary inconvenience. It is truly a profound crisis that affects every corner of your world. Well, let's get personal here for a few minutes. What we're talking about here is burnout. And you got to start by asking yourself, how do you recognize it? What are those subtle whispers and that screaming sirens then that tell you you're not just tired, but man, you are genuinely burned out? And how does that burnout manifest as real, tangible pain points in your business? And more importantly, like it hit me, in your life? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to take some deep honesty on your part. And frankly, it's going to take some courage. But let's start with this. First thing I think that you have to recognize is chronic exhaustion and deep depletion. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, this is far more deeper than just needing a nap. I mean, this is the time when you wake up tired even after a full night's sleep, or what you would call a full night's sleep. Energy levels are just consistently and mysteriously low, no matter what you do. You just find yourself dragging yourself through the day, just 1 minute, by hour, by half a day, whatever that looks like for you. And the pain here, and if you felt this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just a constant physical and mental drag. I know for me, it was waking up with a sense of dread just about every single day. When there was nothing overly wrong, it's just this fear of dread. And honestly, I was always just waiting for the next shoe to drop. Waiting for that client call to cancel their services, and then I got to sell the business, and I'm going to lose everything. Or that letter from the bank that they'd finally pulled my line of credit that I worked so hard to get. I bet you felt this way at times yourself. And for me, it was the inability to focus on a single task for more than just a few minutes, my mind constantly wandering. You can't concentrate. Your memory feels foggy. You're irritable with your loved ones and your clients, and every task, no matter how small, just feels monumentally difficult. And the problem is this leads to missed opportunities, missed deadlines, poor decision-making, and a hugely noticeable drop in the quality of your work. Basically, all the things that will quickly sink your business. And see, your business suffers directly because you're suffering. I'm going to say something right now. It's not going to surprise you. Your marriage is tested. If you're married, your marriage is tested. Your health is absolutely pushed to its limits. And I promised you I'd tell you my story. Well, let me tell you right now. It was about my first 3 years in business that I ballooned up to, listen to this, at least 430 pounds. To say that I was on the verge of a heart attack would be putting it mildly. I remember one day going to the doctor for what I thought was a sinus infection, an upper respiratory thing. I just didn't feel good. I was wheezing just walking into his office. I remember sitting down, with the little thing you sit on there, and they pull that piece of paper, and I sat down, and the nurse came in and she said, "How are you?" And I told her about my symptoms, and she goes, "Well, let me start by taking your blood pressure." Okay, that sounds reasonable. And I remember I was so fat at the time that it took her 3 times with the biggest cuff to even get it on. I mean, that was a challenge, a Herculean effort to begin with. Then she pumped it up, right? And I'm sitting there watching. And as she was pumping up, and I felt like I was going to explode. And I can still see the look in her eyes, that sigh when she let the air out. And she kind of tapped on the thing and she looked around a little bit, and I think she was shocked. So next thing I know, she's pumping up that thing again. Here we go again. And my arms feel like it's going to explode again. She looks at the number. She taps on the thing again. And then one more time. Yeah, 3 times. At this point, I felt like my arm was going to absolutely explode. She scurried out the door, and I bet not 30 seconds later, in came the doctor. And the first thing he says to me, Ralph, you need to lay down right now. I'm thinking, what is going on? But at the time, I was not feeling well. The idea of a lay down, have a power nap sort of hit the spot. And by now, he was already sliding a blood pressure cuff on me again, pumping it up at even a higher rate than before. And then I heard it. And this is not a reassuring thing when your doctor says, oh my. I kind of said for a second, I said, what did you say, doc? What is it? And I'll never forget what he did. He looked down at me and he said, Ralph, you're going to pop. Now, that's not anything you want to hear from your doctor. It turns out at the time, my blood pressure, ready for this? Was 200 over 100. Now, normal's 120 over 80. And I'm at 200 over 100. To say that was high is an understatement. Right away, he says, Ralph, I'm calling an ambulance and you're going to the hospital right now. I said, whoa, wait a second. Hold on a second. We're not going there. And I was able to negotiate him down from the cliff, if you will, but the stage was set. So not only did I have type 2 diabetes, yeah, I learned that the week before this, but now I've got high blood pressure. Great. The trifecta, if you will. Overweight, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes. So he got my blood pressure down. He said, Ralph, you got to do something about this. And I can still remember walking out into the waiting area. I walked out there and I still wasn't feeling good. I was even more concerned now because my blood pressure was soaring. My young wife is there. My 2 boys were sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, Ralph, if something doesn't change, you're going to make your wife a widow. And these 2 young boys are going to lose their father. See that right there? That's what burnout looks like. Well, let's move on. The second thing I think we've got to talk about when you're looking for those symptoms of burnout is increased cynicism, detachment, or resentment. We started off by talking about that excitement when you first started your business, that excitement, that passion. But when you're burned out, that light just slowly dims almost away. And for me, I felt myself feeling increasingly cynical about my clients. Oh, here goes another demanding client. I can't believe they just said that. I would say things like, why am I even dealing with these morons? Not good customer service, to say the least. It also manifests itself with your team. I know it did with mine. You might feel a growing resentment towards your team or even your core mission of your business. You're less engaged. You're more irritable. And you find it absolutely impossible to enthusiastically think about anything related to work. Pain here is just a profound loss of joy and a profound loss of purpose. Your passion project has become a heavy, unwelcome burden. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, your relationships, both personal and professional, they start to fray, they start to break into pieces. Your customers might even sense that detachment, leading to this quiet bleed of lost businesses. And I've seen this happen where an owner started to secretly just wish a big client would leave. They just couldn't handle the stress anymore, just to reduce that pressure. That's a clear sign that you've got a problem. And to me, it almost felt at times like self-sabotage. You're literally chasing away the business and the clients that you're working so hard to land and so hard to grow. It's not good. Well, now let's look at another symptom, and that's reduced performance, reduced efficacy, and creativity. Despite working longer hours, you're actually achieving less. And let me just let you in a little secret. Not just less, far less. You're working at 110%, but your output is almost nothing. Tasks that used to be simple to do take you longer than they should. Your productivity dips. You're making more simple mistakes. Errors that you never really would have made before. And I remember during this time, even routine tasks. I'm talking about things that I did every day without even a thought would just be wrong, filled with stupid errors and careless mistakes. Your ability to think creatively, to solve problems or to innovate feels completely blocked. Like this heavy fog has descended on top of you, and that fog surrounds you completely. You can't even see it. Have you been stuck in that fog? The pain here is a crushing sense of inadequacy. It's that feeling that you're failing. I've felt it. Are you feeling it? And the sad part is I felt that even though I was trying harder than ever. In fact, I look back at it myself. I was working harder than I had ever worked because I knew I was capable of more, but you just can't summon the focus. You just can't summon the energy. And unfortunately, that just goes right to the bottom line. It goes right to that client satisfaction. And if you're not careful, right to that precious reputation you've been building. Think about it like this. It's almost like an athlete who lost their stride, but they're still forced to keep running. The problem is you're in a full 40-yard sprint, but you've not even moved 3 feet. Well, here's another symptom we've got to discuss. And I felt this one, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, persistent physical and emotional symptoms. Because here's the thing you got to understand. Burnout is not just in your head. For me and for a lot of people, it screams right from your body. Like I said earlier, persistent headaches, digestive issues. You can't keep anything down. Your stomach is always tied up in knots, chronic colds, weakened immunity, difficulty sleeping, either insomnia or restless sleep, increased anxiety, irritability, and even symptoms of depression. Let me share something else with you. I told you about that doctor visit with the blood pressure issue, but what I didn't tell you was the next visit with the doctor, he had me take one of those depression tests. Fill out these scores and we come back in, I'll take a look at it. Yeah, I scored a perfect score. One the kind of perfect I wanted, complete depression. So now add depression to the list with diabetes, high blood pressure, morbid obesity. And for me, it also manifested as this constant tension in my shoulders and my jaw and that inability to truly switch off my brain at night. There was no rebooting this machine. The pain is real. Physical discomfort that no amount of pushing through can fix. And if you're ignoring these signals, you are in a very dangerous position. Because here's the truth you might not want to hear. It can lead to serious long-term health problems that will eventually force you to stop. Force you to stop. And generally, it happens at the worst, absolutely worst possible time for your business. Because guess what? It's your body's final desperate attempt to get you to listen to it. Think about my situation. My blood pressure was screaming at me. I remember back then I could feel my blood pressure in the temples of my head. And as you're listening, you might be experiencing all or maybe one of these things. But right now, I want you to hear this, and I want you to hear it loud and clear because, and I'm going to say this really consistently, I honestly didn't handle this well. I remember when I was going through it, I saw this as being weak, as being frail and being soft. My dad always told me, don't be weak, don't be frail, don't be soft. I just kind of hunkered down and figured I could push through it. But what I came to realize is this isn't a sign of weakness, my friend. Let me say that again. This isn't a sign of weakness. This is powerful. It's an undeniable sign that your current approach is unsustainable. It's like a flashing red light, a desperate plea from your own body and mind to tell you that something fundamentally needs to change. As my doctor so eloquently put it bluntly, Ralph, you're going to pop. Now, I'm not sure that's a medical diagnosis, but I heard him loud and clear, and his message was undeniable. It wasn't what I wanted to hear. I was just growing my business, a young wife, young kids. But in the end, looking back at it now, it is truly what I needed to hear. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, Ralph is getting really dark today. He's painted a really pretty dark and dire picture, haven't I? And if you're listening right now, you probably feel that way because I bet that you've probably felt these same symptoms. Maybe not all of them, maybe not all the time, and maybe you've got past that. But it's dark. But here's the good news. I promised when I did this show, I would always give you something that you can use. So here's good news. Here's truly hopeful news. That is this. Burnout, while debilitating, is only a signal. It's just a signal. It's a painful invitation to your body to stop, to deeply assess your reality and to rebuild. Burnout, rebuild. See, this isn't about quitting your business. Far from it. This isn't the time to quit. It's about rebuilding your relationship with it. And at the same time, rebuilding your relationship with yourself so that you can sustain the journey, so you can reignite your purpose and truly enjoy the fruits of your labor. See, because this is where I was wrong. Rebuilding takes a different kind of grit. See, I thought you can't be frail, you can't be soft, just hunker down and just man up and do it. But that's not the kind of grit this takes. This is the kind of grit to be kind to yourself. Kind of seems contrary, doesn't it? To set boundaries and to really prioritize your long-term well-being. But here's the beautiful takeaway of this. This kind of grit will truly transform your life, and it will transform your business. Now listen, I'm not saying this is some fluffy self-care advice. I told you from the start, I would always call it as I see it. No fluff, no hype here in the trenches. This is strategic business management. They don't teach this at Harvard or Yale. This is from the School of Hard Knocks, the School of Hard Work, the School of Grit, because if you're burnt out, and hear me on this loud and clear, if you're burned out, your business is operating at a fraction of its potential. Your business is operating at a fraction of its potential. Hear me on this. Fixing you now, fixing you. This is what we're going to focus on for the rest of today's show. Fixing you is fixing your business. And at the beginning, I promised I would help you fix it. So here are some concrete, actionable steps that you can take this week to begin this vital process of rebuilding. The first thing you've got to do, and this is the hardest thing I had to do, acknowledge and validate your burnout and do it out loud. And I put this first because this is the first, most courageous step. Go and stand in front of a mirror. Or talk to a trusted friend or your partner and say, I'm burned out. And that's okay. It's okay because I'm not a failure. This is just a sign. Stop fighting it. Stop trying to push through it the way you always have. This isn't weakness. It's courageous self-awareness. This is the time to give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling without judgment. Just naming it without resistance. Just doing that can release a huge amount of hidden tension and really, truly, and hear me on this, open the door to healing. I can still remember the day I finally admitted it to my wife. And to be brutally honest, by this point in our marriage, it was on life support. And to be even more transparent and honest, the mistakes I made back then, I will never be able to completely erase. And it bothers me to this minute. I caused so many scars to her and to my boys at that time. They're scars I can never get rid of. I can work on them. I can try to improve things, but those are scars that will never go away. But I had to start with saying it out loud to her. I said to say, yes, it was terrifying. It was terrifying to admit that. But the relief I felt afterwards was immense. Just saying it, it took so much pressure off just by saying it. Because I was at least able to draw that line in the sand and start rebuild what I had slowly broken. So it starts there. Own it. Admit it. And start to move from there. And next thing I'm going to encourage you to do is identify some non-negotiable recharge and schedule it first. What's one tiny thing, even if it's just 15, 20, or 30 minutes, that genuinely recharges your battery even just a little bit? Is it a walk outside in nature? Maybe for you, it's listening to music that isn't business related, reading a non-business book, spending undistracted time with a loved one, just talking or meditating or cooking a simple meal. It's different for everybody. But whatever it is, put it on your calendar first this week. Treat it like it's your most important client meeting because guess what? It is. This is your most important client meeting because guess what? If you're not well, your business isn't well and your clients won't have you to do work with them. This isn't a luxury. This is a critical component of your operational efficiency and It's your long-term survival plan. So once you put these things on your calendar, you got to protect this time fiercely. For me, it became getting out for a short walk on the farm just to clear my head. Just walk out the door and just walk and watch the cows do whatever the cows do. And I got to be honest, initially it felt like a waste of time. I got so much to do. I don't have time to go walk around the farm. But as I started to build that habit and just made that something I had to do, I started to quickly see the clarity. And I started to feel that renewed energy that it brought to the rest of my day. And for me, hey, with type 2 diabetes, morbidly obese, high blood pressure, you name it, I needed to drastically lose a ton of weight, get that diabetes and blood pressure down. Because as my doctor said, for me, I was going to pop. It was either a heart attack or maybe not so even lucky I might have been past that one. But here's my next suggestion. So I talked about some me things, but the next thing you've got to really consider is how can you delegate or eliminate even just one small draining task? And I'm going to encourage you to do this right away. Look at your never-ending to-do list. If you're like me, you've got a to-do list a mile wide. But I want you to really drill into it. And what is one small task that you absolutely dread? Some of you, I hate doing this. I do not like doing this at all. Something that drains your energy disproportionately than anything else that you do. And then is it something else somebody else could do? Or can you put it off? This could be done later. Could it be somebody else do it later? And see, when I started doing this, somebody had told me to try this. Like, that'll never work. I got to do all this stuff. When I started doing this, I was amazed at just how many tasks I was doing each and every day, which were just useless. I mean, it's truly work I could have delegated to my secretary. You've got to delegate it. Even if it's to a virtual assistant for just an hour, or simply decide to eliminate it for this week. No guilt attached. Because freeing up even a tiny bit of mental or physical bandwidth can create immediate positive ripple effect, showing you that you can create space. And see, I'll tell you what it was for me. In my business, I used to hold on to every single client interaction, even the small ones. I held on to every single one. The first time I truly delegated a follow-up email sequence, I felt a knot in my stomach. I said to myself, this is not going to be good. I started questioning, is this going to get done right? What will the client say? Will I lose that client? All negative self-talk. But then when I saw it handled perfectly and the client was happy, I realized how much bandwidth I'd gained back for higher level work. You've got to do the same thing. And last, but certainly not least, if you want to get past this burnout, you got to learn to redefine success, even if it's just for this season. See, when you're burned out, that grand vision of success, whatever you want to call it, the big numbers, the perfect team, that massive scale, when you're burned out, that can feel like an impossible mountain that just exacerbates your exhaustion. It just makes it worse. So here's my challenge for this week. Redefine success as simply as doing one foundational task consistently. Maybe for you, it's not even the business. It's just showing up for that non-negotiable recharge every single day. You got to give yourself permission to focus on recovery and those small, consistent steps forward rather than pushing for that monumental achievement. Trust me on this. See, this shifts your mindset from that self-criticism. If you're a small business person like me, you're always self-criticizing. But it shifts it to self-compassion. It makes that path feel achievable again. I can tell you for my own self, there was a point where the definition of a successful day for me shifted from hitting a revenue target to simply getting through the core of my task and spending quality time with my family without being distracted. Yeah, turn the phone off, turn off the email, shut the computer down. That shift was profoundly liberating for me. See, friend, the grind is real. It's real. And it's okay to admit when you're overwhelmed. We don't like to do that as type A business owners. We just, we got it. We're going to push through it. We'll sleep when we're dead. I've heard that said too many times. But hear me on this and hear me loud and clear. Burnout is a serious threat to everything you've worked for. But more importantly than that, it's a serious threat to you. It's a threat to your business. It's a threat to your relationships. Trust me, I learned that. And as I shared, it's a threat to your very life. But the other side of this, burnout is also an incredibly huge opportunity to pause, to listen to what your body and your mind are desperately telling you, and to take this moment to rebuild your business and rebuild your life on a foundation of true sustainability. You've got the grit to build. Now let's apply that grit to rebuilding yourself so you can continue to build your business for years to come. And to help you get started on this vital journey, I've created for today's show a simple action plan sheet for this episode. It's called Burned Out, Let's Rebuild. Now, this is a free downloadable sheet that'll guide you through acknowledging that burnout, all the things we talked about today, identifying your essential recharge activities, finding that one task to delegate or eliminate, and really redefining your success for this particular season. This is a practical tool to help you take those crucial first steps towards healing and rebuilding and growing that energy and your business. And you can download it right now by visiting our website. That's at gritandgrowthbusiness.com/action. Again, that's gritandgrowthbusiness.com/action. Go there and download the action plan sheet today and start rebuilding yourself, your energy, and your business today. Because here is a truth that I'm going to leave you with today. Your business needs you, but it doesn't just need you. It needs you healthy. It needs you vibrant. It needs you engaged. Your life depends on it. You got rugged determination. Don't let burnout win. Let that motivate you. Take these steps. Be patient with yourself and remember that rebuilding your energy is just as important as rebuilding your revenue. In fact, it's often a prerequisite to that. It's the ultimate act of grit, prioritizing your own sustainability. You are strong enough for this. And I'm here walking alongside you every step of the way. So thank you so much for joining me on Grit and Growth Business. I'm committed to bringing you honest conversations and practical strategies every single week to help you build your business the right way. Now, next week, we're going to talk about a vital topic that connects to both energy and profit. And you're going to love this one. Real revenue versus feel-good followers. We're going to explore why vanity metrics don't pay the bills and how to focus your efforts on what truly drives your business forward. It's going to be a frank discussion as usual, so you don't want to miss it. And again, don't forget to download your action sheet for this episode at gritandgrowthbusiness.com/action. You've got the grit. Now let's get to that growth. God bless you, and I'll see you next week right back here in the trenches.
Thanks for joining us today on Grit and Growth Business, the show where real business owners find the clarity, courage, and confidence to build something that lasts. If this episode spoke to you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's next. Remember, success isn't easy, and there are no shortcuts. But with grit, growth is possible. And when in doubt, just ask Ralph. This show is a production of Ask Ralph Media, supported by Saggio Accounting Plus. The content in this episode is based on information available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media Inc. are under no obligation to update it should circumstances change. Please understand, this episode is not intended to be financial, tax, or legal advice. Your unique situation deserves tailored guidance, so before making any decisions, consult with your trusted tax professional or attorney.